Uh,
Meeting is being recorded.
all right. Hopefully, everyone can see the cover screen here.
Yeah.
Okay. So, um, hello, Housatonic Camera Club, and again, thank you for having me here. And as you heard tonight, we're going to look at what I'm calling the Fab Four. These are really four creative techniques that I use quite often, and they're very versatile. And let's just go ahead and dive in and introduce the our band of artistic effects to you. Uh, so the first one is transforming images, and that's the easiest way to take advantage of some free software. And we're going to look at Topaz Studio 2, which is free, and it's a nice, easy way to transform your images into works of art. And the next is compositing, which is adding or combining multiple images, and it's the tool that makes Photoshop so powerful. So I use it quite often in straight shots, and for creative ones, it's indispensable. So I'll show numerous examples of what can be done. And then mirrored art, or the use of symmetry, is a naturally pleasing way to compose and present artistic work. Again, it's both simple and versatile rather, and perhaps one of the most intriguing, if not bizarre, tools to experiment with inside Photoshop is this thing called polar coordinates. And if you tried it, you know it's super easy to do, but it can be very unpredictable. So I'll show you how it works, so it'll be much easier to use as a creative tool. But the key thing to keep in mind is that these four artistic effects don't just play by themselves. They can interact and play together. And while we may not see all four of these playing at the same time, we're certainly going to see two or three of these playing together. So let's take a look. First, I just wanted to give you an overview of some of the Photoshop commands that you'll be seeing, and these are pretty much in the order that you'll see them. Um, they come from the Tools panel, which should looks like this, along with at the bottom, which you'll see below your layers. It comes from a lot of the commands come from the menu bar up on top, and then some keyboard shortcuts, both for the PC and the Mac. So let's look at Topaz Studio 2, and it is phenomenal. If it was left behind as Topaz Labs moved on to their current AI suite of software tools, which you need to pay for. And yes, I do use their current software, but I just can't let go of the presets in Studio 2, which can expand the artistry of your images with the click of a button. And they're free. And here's their website here, topazlabs.com. And if you copy this link, you'll go to the page where you can get downloads for either the Mac or the PC. And I'll typically apply these looks to images like this, images that an image that might need a little help getting pushed to look artistic. And we're going through, some examples here of these effects that are in Topaz 2. There's literally hundreds of these presets. So we just cycled through a few of them here. In fact, if you looked at the close at the haystacks, you'll see some of the colors starting to come out. You can use masking on these. You can actually go in and use brushes and get as exotic as you want. But for every example that I'm going to show you tonight, all I did was determine how much of the effect I wanted with this opacity slider. So 100% is obviously the whole effect, and anything in between is a portion of it. And so that's all I did. All the images you're going to look at is just the click of a button. And so let's take a look at a few in terms of what you can do with your images. So here's a panorama I took, and I like all the colors, but it's really nothing exciting to look at until it's transformed artistically. And for this, I went into Studio 2 and used what's called the colored pencil effect, and then I didn't fully like what I saw, so I went back in and used abstraction on it. And so I think the end effect is certainly a lot better than the original shot. Just adds a little life and color to it. This view was shot with a wide angle lens, but certainly not wide enough to capture the canopy that I was under. And, so when I look at an image like this on my desktop, I sometimes immediately know what I'd like to do artistically. Other times I have to just kind of absorb it. What am I seeing? What am I feeling? What am I sensing? And here I feel and sense, the tree is a great energy source, right? The trunk, the limbs, the branches sending life up into the leaves. And so, this wonderful electrify effect provided just the look I wanted. And because I didn't want that electrify effect on the tree trunk, I used a layer mask for that. And I'll show you what these layer masks are and how they work if you're not familiar with them. Here's a ground level view of a peach tree. Again, it's nice, but I'm not really feeling much of anything looking at it, until the right artistic effect, or in this case, effects, push the colors out. And here I used two of them, vibrant treetops. Then I went back in again and used the abstraction effect. And so I think we've got something a lot more interesting and colorful to look at here. This is a local park nearby, photographed obviously during Christmas time, and it's got the potential, I think, to be something a little better. And if you go into Topaz Studio 2, there's this wonderful effect called Violet Night, and it's in the section that's called the AI Remix section. And this was Topaz Labs' first foray using AI as a tool. So all the previous examples I showed you, it's applying the effect over the entire image. And here with this AI Remix, it's actually applying the effect based on what it sees in your image. So just a great tool, just a great look. So we've seen how we can transform entire images, but imagine now what you could do with an image if you selectively applied different artistic effects to it. And that's what ultimately hit me after staring at this image for a while. So somehow I wanted to see that tulip in the front, come out from the background of tulips, somehow emerge from the background. So I went into Topaz Studio 2 and I saw this effect called charcoal, and this looks like the starting point of a nice image that I wanted to start with. There was another one called colored pencil, and I thought between these two and the original, I've got the makings for something that could work. So here we are, we're looking at the layers in Photoshop. Charcoal layer is on top, the colored pencil underneath it, and then the background layer. So of course, all you can see is the charcoal layer up on top. And the idea with layer masks is that you're able to look down through these layers at what's below. So how do you create a layer mask? This is the icon that you would use. And this white mask pops up. And when it pops up, you're not going to see any difference on your screen. So it's waiting for you to do something. And so what you're going to do is pick the paintbrush. Here's your paintbrush icon here. And you're going to go up to the top again on your menu, and you drop down screen where the paintbrush is, and it's asking you, well, how big a paintbrush do you want? And do you want it to be a soft, a hard paintbrush? Well, in this case, we want a very large paintbrush, and we want a very soft one. So this slider is way off on the left. And if you hover your cursor over the area on the screen, and again, you're painting the mask here, and you're hovering your cursor over the screen, and as soon as you click the mask, you're coloring the mask with this black, nice diffuse black. And essentially what it's doing is it's like burning a hole and you're looking down to the next layer. And so I'm starting to see the effect that I wanted, right? I have this nice pencil sketch and it's working its way into this nice colored pencil effect. So you can kind of imagine where this is headed next. We're going to put another layer mask on the colored pencil because we now want to be able to look down through that and try and pick out the nice uh, tulip in the foreground. So for this, we're going to pick a different size brush, right? It's going to be a little smaller, a little harder. And what I wanted to do here was instead of having this diffuse blob, if you will, on the mask, I wanted to paint the tulip precisely so that I have just that tulip popping out. And so when I'm done painting the mask with that black paint, the black paint, it essentially has now burned a hole down through that layer. And now I'm seeing the raindrops on the original background layer. So um, for those of you that, use Photoshop and use layer masks, I'm sure you love it. It's very powerful. And for those that may not have used it, it's extremely powerful tool, and it's just a great way to be creative with some of your images. Okay, so try and get beyond how ugly this photo looks and think about the potential. So I was on the other side of this bench when I saw these guys hanging out on a park bench, and I slowly walked up and around the bench to this vantage point, and I couldn't go back any further. There's a lake behind me, and to make things worse, I've got the wrong lens on the camera, and it's a 150 to 600. So I'm turning the camera sideways at 150, and I do a series of shots and I stitch them together in a panorama. So at least I have my 9 little pigeon friends on the bench. And that's why the bench looks warped here. But you can straighten this out in Photoshop, clean up the background a little bit. Excuse me. And now we've got the starting image where we can go into Topaz and pick out an image that will help bring this thing out. And so this, again, this abstraction effect does such a good job, and I just did a little color boost here. What the abstraction effect does, it essentially declutters everything in the image. So it's only bringing out the pigeons, it's only bringing out the bench, and it leaves the background nice and soft here. So again, I'm always, staring at an image like this and thinking, well, what else can I do to make this more engaging? And so I added this scarf here. So we're seeing a composite now for the first time, and we're going to be getting into composites. But how do you do this? How do you add an image here? I basically took a picture of the scarf in my living room and draped it over a couch. And then with this object selection tool, you can just grab the scarf, and you may need the eraser tool to get rid of some, maybe what it's picking up in between those little tassels there. But basically, you're eliminating the background and you can place it where you want here. So, you know, you you're not really just adding a scarf. You're adding some color. You're giving something viewers to look at and think about. So it makes it, I think, a lot more engaging. So I could go on and on talking about these wonderful presets, but I think you get the idea. It's the simplest Fab 4 technique to use, and as you'll continue to see as we move forward, it's a very versatile one which can play very well with other techniques. So our second artistic effect, compositing, has been around for a long, long time. These paintings in the Lascaux caves in France date back 17,000 years. And hey, we had some really good artists 17,000 years ago, and they've captured a lot of animals that they were probably hunting. But if you now fast forward about 200 years ago, now we have our wonderful artists like Albert Bernstadt. He was one of the artists with the Hudson River School. And these were some of the first artists to go out into nature and actually paint what they saw in nature and bring it back for people to see. And so, you look at this image, you go, well, wow, Albert, where were you? And well, Albert was all over the place, and he grabbed the mountain from a certain place and the sky from another and the lake from another. And so this is a composite. Thomas Cole, another, wonderful Hudson River School artist, obviously in his travels, saw a beautiful cathedral, and he composited that in with other images he saw. So absolutely beautiful, works of art from these artists here. So, my feeling is that if it's good enough for these masters, it's certainly good enough for me. And personally, I am not shy at all about incorporating other elements in my photos to add interest or impact. And, here we've got a nice composition, which is set up by these foreground elements. And, with that post on the right being so prominent, it just makes sense to put my pensive little seagull friend on it. And so we're not just adding an object for viewers to look at. We're giving viewers something to think about, right? What is he seeing? What is he feeling? Is he perched on that post looking for his next meal? Or, could he be enjoying the view like we are? I like this composition as well. The feature here is that dramatic sky with the tree in the foreground. Uh, but I think the addition of this flock of geese heading home for the day kind of helps bring some balance to the composition, because now it gives our eyes some room to move about in the scene. I like this simple composition of silhouetted trees against that beautiful blue sky and the puffy clouds. And it was intentionally cropped in this wide format to accentuate the tree line. And so I wanted to use this contour here and then composited a corresponding flight of geese, in this kind of empty space above it. So I think this works. It's a nice story. It's more engaging for viewers. So I am always composite ready. So I've got a folder of birds, flowers, butterflies, the moon, whatever, that I'm ready to drop in a photo. For those of you that may not be familiar with the checkerboard pattern that you're seeing here, checkerboard pattern just means there's nothing there. So I've already taken the time to grab the bird, in this case with the object selection tool, eliminate the background. And so this is very easy to place into an image and rather into layers and composite it. So we can also do this in reverse, where instead of a nice landscape where I'm compositing birds, now I've got some beautiful birds that I really need a better background for. So I wasn't about to pass up an opportunity to photograph, this beautiful horned owl and other birds of prey that the Audubon Society was hosting at a local place. And so I banged off a bunch of shots, and here I'm just replacing the background, right? Bringing another background in and trying to make it look as natural as possible. If you in the camera club or have submit things for PSA, we all know that this is not going to work in a nature category because it's been manipulated, but if you have an open category, it's just fine. And for me, I just wanted to capture these beautiful birds in a nice natural setting. Here's some more beautiful falcon here. And again, you can picture the trainer's arm just below the image, but I don't care. I know I didn't capture the whole bird. I'll just never be this close to such a beautiful animal. One thing to keep in mind if you're going to do this is your background always needs to be blurry. And if you think about it, the only way you're going to get a bird like this is with a zoom lens. The zoom lens has a very shallow depth of field, which means your background should be blurry. So you'll know someone who's kind of not doing it correctly when their background looks nice and sharp, because you can't do that with a camera. So here's how you go about capturing just the bird here. So it's again the object selection tool, which looks like this, and you have a few things that you can use underneath it. And in pink, you'll see when you've captured the whole bird and you've selected it, it'll show up in pink. And it's as simple as just going edit, copy, edit, paste, and it just puts that bird on its own layer. And then you can just bring in a background layer. Again, I used a background that was with leaves and it was nice and sharp, and I just defocused it, blurred it rather, excuse me. And the easiest way to blur it is to go up to filter, blur, and you have a lot of choices, but I think Gaussian blur does a nice job. So I'm up on the 15th floor of a condo in Ocean City, Maryland, photographing turkey vultures that are gliding around the building. And if you've ever seen a turkey vulture, you know they're not going to win a beauty contest anytime soon. From the front, they are just not attractive birds, but from the top, they have just gorgeous wingspans. And there's few birds, I think, in my opinion, that can rival the wingspan of these turkey vultures. They're just so beautiful. So I like this image, and this is now a shot from the condo, or you're looking at the bay in the background, some of the condos. I didn't really care for the background, so it's easy to separate the bird, replace it with a more natural background, and just try and blur it and make it look as natural as possible. So we're gonna have fun with an image here. This one is, I don't know if if you guys are as intrigued with these viewfinders as I am, but I always get a kick out of these things. They're so alien-like, right? And it's like the manufacturers intentionally make these viewfinders with what looks like eyes and a nose and a face, and so they're just begging to be played with. Excuse me. So I wanted a nice tight crop here. So we're starting with this nice tight crop. I think he's got a wonderful face here. And we're going to go in and replace or composite a new sky in here. And you can do that very easily in Photoshop by going to Edit, Sky Replacement. And Photoshop gives you a whole bunch of skies or clouds that you can use, but I prefer to use my own. So I have it directed to a different folder where my skies are located. And then went back in, and now we have topaz being applied here, a nice topaz effect. And well, what is he looking at? Well, he's looking up at the sky, so we see the reflection of the sky in his eyes. And okay, well, what is he looking at? Well, he's tracking a seagull here. So one final little pop of color, and we're kind of finished here with the image. And so the way this would look in Photoshop is this, and we're working our way up from the bottom. So the original image was on the bottom that you saw. We put a different sky in. I'm calling this the viewfinder the alien. So I separated him. I brought him into Topaz, into the AI remix section, and this one's called Ink and Sand that gave it this nice color. And then these four top layers are the eyes left and right, and it's the seagull left and right. And for the first time, you're seeing now a black layer mask. And how do you get a black layer mask, and what does that do? Instead of hitting the mask, you're going to hit, well, but just before you hit the mask, you're going to hit the Alt button. And when you hit Alt and the mask, you get a black mask. And what's the difference here? Well, with a white layer mask, you see no difference at all on that layer. With a black layer mask, you see nothing. And you'll see nothing until you paint it with some white paint. And that's what you see here on the layer mask. So I just have a little dab of paint that's kind of picking out either this bird or the sky. So I'm directing you to these, places where these things are. Go in and experiment with these, whether it's a white or a black layer mask, and just go have fun with this. Fireworks. I absolutely love fireworks because I find them as incredible sources of creativity. And here we see two images straight out of the camera. And they each become even more interesting if you go in with each one of these and you apply a topaz effect on it. In this case, we have swirly strokes. On this one, it's called swirly strokes. On this one, it's called stamp brush. And, even if you were to take these images by themselves, I mean, I'd be happy with these images by themselves, and I am, but I'm always playing. It's like, okay, well, what do we do now? Well, we're going to bring these back into Photoshop and we're going to blend these. So we're seeing blending for the first time now. Here's our two layers. Right above the layers, you'll see this window here. It normally says normal, which means there's no blending going on. But if you hit the drop down arrow, you have a whole choice of blend modes. I'm using this blend mode called soft light. And basically, it's compositing, it's blending those two layers. So it does a wonderful job. By the way, I should have pointed this out. If you see these little symbols up here, it means I'm using, in this case, two different effects. I have a topaz effect on this, and I'm using compositing. So we've got two of our four players working here. So compositing is a very impactful Fab 4 technique because just like our Hudson River School artists, we're giving viewers more to look at, more to think about, and more to explore. So our third artistic effect, mirrored art, is a big player because symmetry naturally catches our attention. And it becomes a perfect setting for any subject because of how it draws our attention to the middle or the line of symmetry. If you go ahead and Google this, um, you'll see symmetry. We see it everywhere, right? We are naturally attracted to it, right? Plants, animals, food, right? From snowflakes to spiral galaxies. And of course, we build using symmetry for great visual and emotional appeal. So again, why not use symmetry for our art? And by the way, this view is, since you're in Connecticut, this is down in Stamford. This is if you're interested in going in and photographing this, give them a call. This is one of the most magnificent churches literally on the planet. There is nothing like it. And it's probably an hour drive or so for you. Just Google Fish Church, Stamford, and you can call them and make an appointment and they'll let you go in and photograph. It is stunning. So here's how you go about mirroring an image. Anytime, by the way, you bring an image into Photoshop, the image and the canvas size are one and the same. They're both identical. But if I'm going to take this image and I want to make it twice as wide and twice as high, I now have to expand the canvas. I need to make my canvas larger. So the way to do that is you go up to image, canvas size, and you'll get a dialog box that looks like this. And the default is inches, but you can change that to percent. And we want it to be twice as wide, right? 200%. And we want it to be twice as high because we're going to be fitting four of these in this space here. And I also want this image here not to wind up in the middle, but I want it obviously to be in one of the corners. So I've moved the anchor point to this top right corner here. Normally it's the default is in the middle. So we're just clicking the top right corner. And now when you go back into Photoshop, we're all set up. It's in the top right corner. We're ready to mirror this thing and get a whole bunch of different, excuse me, a nice mirrored effect. And so here's how we do it. We're going to make a copy of this with Control or Command J, and then we're just going to flip it. And we're using the transpose tool, which is Control or Command T. And when you do that, you'll see this blue box appear around your image. And if you touch the right square here, right, and you just click and drag that to the other side, it's basically like taking that layer and flipping it like the page of a book. And you're just going to repeat this process two more times, right? You're going to take that top left one, you're going to make a copy of it, you're going to transpose it, you're going to click and drag that one down to the bottom. You're going to repeat it again. See what we're doing every single time? We're making a new layer, transpose, we click and drag, flip it like the page of a book. So now we've got four of these and we're just going to merge them together onto a layer, and you just do right click, merge layers. And that's the starting point for our art that we're going to use. But first, we're going to take this and we're going to bring it into Topaz, and we're going to put a nice Topaz effect on it. This is going to be our background here. And we're going to take a an object or subject. In this case, it'll be a butterfly. And as you can tell with the checkered background, I've already taken the time to get rid of the background, and I'm just bringing him in, laying him right on top. I've added this little shadow here, which I'll show you how we do that just to give it some depth. And then, with symmetry like this, where it's always predictable up and down, left and right, I always like to skew things a little bit just to add some interest. So I skew it, zoom in, and this would be the finished look here for this piece here. So again, the layers would look like this. This was my starting layer with my butterfly. I mirrored the background. Then I brought that in to Topaz and I used this abstraction effect. I added my butterfly up on top. I created a duplicate layer for the butterfly and then offset it, meaning I just shifted it a little bit, change the exposure, the Gaussian blur, the opacity, so it gives it this nice shadow effect. And you can get that drop shadow also by double clicking on the butterfly, and you'll get a screen that pops up, and there is this thing called drop shadow. So that's just another way to do it, but I typically like to kind of make my own here. And so all you're seeing is these top three layers. I've unclicked these. They're no longer, you no longer need to see them. And that's our finished image here. Here's another one. This is I think it's called a perilla plant. And I've gone and I've done the same thing here, right? We've expanded the canvas. I've made copies, mirrored it. And so I'm going to use this now for my background. In similar fashion, go into Topaz and put this nice Topaz effect on it, which we'll talk about. And then, as before, bring in a flower and one last step of just giving it some depth here, a nice deep vignette. And, we've got our finished image here. And this is what the layers would look like here, where we started with our mirrored background. We put an impasto at 50% on there from Topaz to give it this nice look. We added we'll jump up here, we added our flower. And you're seeing some layer masks here. And the question is, well, why did you do that, Phil? Well, if I didn't have these layer masks, this flower would be laying on top of these petals here. So I'm just trying to give it some depth, make it look like it actually is sitting there. And you can do that with the layer mask and just paint selectively to have it kind of lay right in there. So watch what we do here. This is a nice flower garden. We're taking this flower garden, we're turning it sideways, expanding the canvas, making a copy, flipping it like the page of a book. So we've got a background here, and we're going to bring that into Topaz. We apply a nice artful effect on it, and this is going to be used for our background. And then here, we're going to place a flower on like we've done in the past, but this time we haven't taken the time to separate the flower from the background, okay? And you don't need to separate it. So this is what it will look like when we're done. It has a different look, right? So it has this nice little, you're seeing a little transparency happening here. It's more diffused. It's a different look. But it might take a few more steps, but I think the steps are worth it. Let's look at what it looks like in Photoshop. Here's our mirrored background. If you just jump up here, this is now the Topaz Studio 2 where I put this impasto effect on it at 70%. I've put my flower on the top layer, excuse me. And here again, we're looking at blending the flower down to the layers below. And we're using the lighten mode here. Now, so let's talk about these two layers here. So we know how to create this layer mask. We've seen this tool. And the way that we create this color fill background, which is going to be black, is to use this tool here. So why are we adding those two things? If I didn't have the layer mask or that color fill background, and I was just to try and blend the flower with the lighten mode, this is what it would look like without these layer mask and this background. So it's a ghosty image, okay? And so the only way to bring this ghost-like image out is to use a layer mask and paint on the mask, and that will draw out the flower. And again, against a black background, it does a great job. So a hosta leaf, by itself is clearly a work of art. And, again, you go ahead and expand the canvas and make multiple, some mirrored images here. I mean, what a wonderful job nature does with symmetry. Excuse me. So there's another variety of a hosta plant. We've done the same thing here. And, for this, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to create something that's abstract. So I've got my two layers here, and I'm going to go in to Image, Adjustments, Channel Mixer. And when you do that, you're going to see a dialog box pop up. And what I want to do is change the color of this hosta leaf. And if you move sliders around or you move this output channel, there's three choices here. Basically, you're in there playing. You're moving sliders around until you see a color that you like. And that's all I'm doing. So I don't know how the channel mixer works, but I do know if you go in and move sliders, it's going to change colors. So I was happy. I moved these sliders. I got a blue leaf up on top here. And then if I go to the exclusion mode and blend it, I get this very kaleidoscope-like looking image here. And again, what made me pick exclusion? When you hit the drop-down arrow and you have that list of blend modes, if you bring your cursor down through it, in real time, you'll see it blending right on the screen. So I just bring it down and down until I see something that makes me stop and say, "Ooh, I like that." And so the exclusion mode did a real nice job with that. And again, you can keep this the way it is, or you can bring that back into Topaz if you like. In this case, I went into the AI Remix section, this thing called Desert Prism. Um, and you can go back in again. There's so many looks in Topaz Studio 2. This one's called Brilliant on Black. Again, very abstract, kaleidoscope like looking image. And again, if you go to the top right here, we're using three of our techniques here. We've gone into Topaz and transformed it. We have a composite. We've had a mirrored image. So we're using all these techniques together. And that's really what makes it very versatile. So this image is right out of the camera and hasn't been processed at all. And I want to be able to create a mirrored image here. And really what's striking me when I saw this was this nice sunburst pattern here. So that's where I wanted to start it for a crop. And then again, we're going to expand the canvas and mirror it. And we've got kind of a very interesting looking forest going on here. Uh, and then if we go and process this fully, in this case, we've gone into Topaz twice. Once to put a red rock effect on it at 50%, brought it back in, put this chalk pastel effect on it, excuse me, and then back in Photoshop just to make it pop more, to increase the blacks, the brightness, the contrast. And I've changed the aspect ratio a little bit. And we've got an altar-like thing on the path on this forest with this crazy looking tree and a sunburst. So it's different, right? And it's all about being fun, having fun with this, and just creating, in this case, landscapes that don't exist. Here's another one. This is an image from Olympic National Park up in Washington, and this is in the Hoh rainforest. Absolutely gorgeous trees they have up here. And here I'm looking again for where's a good place to crop this. And so this makes sense. I think we're all pretty good at visualizing, and if you can kind of visualize what this is going to look like when we mirror it, it looks like an interesting image here. So this is a good starting image for us here. Again, I'm looking at it, I'm, trying to get inspiration, and clearly this tree in the center is what's drawing my attention. And so to me, it makes sense to make this a home for a nice owl friend. that I took at a different location. Again, bringing this into Topaz, we're applying effects on it. We've got this sunburst effect, and you can create this nice enchanted forest. Again, we're using three of the tools here, right? Three of the effects to get our look here. So, by utilizing nature's cue with symmetry, right, to produce mirrored art, we're helping draw attention to our images, and that makes this technique a big player. Our final Fab 4, not unlike one of the original Fab 4, is a bit quirky. Excuse me. It's called polar coordinates, where you can transform an image like this to this with the click of a button. And you'll find that click of a button up at Filter, Distort, and Polar Coordinates. And you can continue to play with this. Here we're compositing in some people viewing what looks like a window. We've composited in a nice star field in the background. And so you can kind of play around and have fun with what you can do with polar images. But I think it's really important to try and, if you can visualize what is going on in that transformation, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to use this as a tool. So this image on the left is the starting image. And this image on the right is what it would look like after we go into the polar coordinates. So what is happening here? Well, we can explain this in 4 steps. The top portion, right, in green is going to collapse down and be essentially be the center section. And so anything way up at the top is going to collapse down to a little point. The bottom portion is going to wrap around, okay, like you see. And the left and the right sides, shown in purple and blue, are going to wrap around and form this seam right here. And then finally, this bottom surface here, which is shown in gray, becomes the background. So the background is what's in between in this case, the ellipse and the rectangle. So it becomes your background. And so these are the 2 things you're going to need to address when you go into this polar coordinates. And I'll show you how we address each one of these. But the reason that this image worked was because the left and the right sides are both on the frame, right? And remember, the frame is going to wrap around. The left and right sides wrap around and they meet right here. Well, they meet right where a frame would be. So that worked, right? The seam was invisible, so that was nice that it worked. And then the bottom side, because it was all really one color, almost one color. You can see some sunlight here. So you have different colors, but that's where you're seeing essentially brown, which is the bottom sill, but you're seeing these rays popping out, okay? So that's why this was what I'm going to call a passable image. Let's say we wanted to play with this image here, and let's say we just went ahead and clicked the polar coordinates button without doing anything. Watch how ugly this image gets. So if you were to hit polar coordinates for the first time with this image, you would back up and say, I don't know what happened. I am never going in and touching that button again because I don't know what happened. But we can fix this one step at a time. So, excuse me, the first thing we're going to fix or to address is the seam. So let's talk about how we fix the seam. The easiest way to fix the seam, and we're going back to our mirror friend here, our mirror technique, is well, in this case, we flipped it sideways, we expanded the canvas, we made a copy, flipped it like the page of a book. So we have this mirrored image now. And what's good about a mirrored image? Well, the left and the right sides are now identical, right? So if we were to apply the polar coordinates here, after we merge the layers, this is what it would look like. So we got rid of this seam here, which is nice. So we've gotten rid of one of the things that's a stumbling block with this technique, but we still have this ugly background, right? I like the black up here, but we have this ugly background. And so the question is, well, where is that background coming from? it's coming from this bottom surface, okay? So the bottom surface was black, then it had all these different colors. And so if you want to make the entire background just one color, here's how you go about doing it. You want to paint the bottom surface a certain color. So here's our mirrored image. We're zoomed in on this rectangular rectangle here, and that's what you're seeing here. This is the bottom of the image, okay? And what we want to do is paint a black line on this bottom surface because we want the black to be around the whole thing. So we grab our paintbrush. We also have this color picker tool right above it, where if you then click on the black, that's the color it's gonna pick on the paintbrush. And you're gonna go up to the top, grab a very small paintbrush, a very hard paintbrush. You're gonna hover your cursor on the bottom left, okay? And you're gonna paint a straight line in 2 steps. And the first step is you're just gonna click the bottom left corner. Now I'm showing this in white because if I did it in black, you wouldn't see it. So we're clicking the bottom left in black, pretend it's black. And then before we go and click the bottom right, we're going to hit the shift key. And when you do that, it paints this beautiful straight line. It's shown in white, but pretend it's black. And then if we went into polar coordinates and we compressed our image a little bit, it would look like this, right? So we've gotten rid of the seam, which was one of the issues, and we've changed our background to a very pleasing, a nice dark background. Again, here I'm looking at the image, looking for inspiration, and I don't really care for the top portion or the bottom portion. It's this center portion that's really interesting to me. And as I look at it, I kind of see something looking at me. And in this case, I bring in my little owl friend, right? We saw our owl friend earlier. He's on a layer. I make a layer mask. I kind of paint him in there. Again, we're having fun. So we've composited, we've mirrored, we've used polar coordinates. We've got 3 of our players here playing. You can do some very interesting things with in this case, a sculpture. So in this case, we've expanded our canvas about 300%. So it's about 3 times wider, and we know how to expand the canvas. We've left our image right here, and we're going to make multiple mirrored images here. So we only saw a mirrored image once. We're going to do multiples here. And you do it the same way you would do it in the past, except instead of clicking and dragging, right? We make a copy, transpose, and you click and drag. Instead of clicking and dragging it completely like the page of a book, we're going to stop short. So we have a compressed image here. And then we're going to take that, we're going to do the same thing, make a copy, and then flip it like the page of a book, a little less. We're going to do it again, right? You can see what's happening here. So we have this nice I'm going to call it seamless image, right? Because we're mirroring it. And anytime you use this technique of polar images, you always want to wind up with an even number of layers, okay? So we started out by just mirroring it left and right, that's 2. If we were to mirror this, it's got 4 layers. The left and the right side would blend just perfectly, okay? But we want to do a few more. So I want to make a copy of this, flip it, make a copy of panel 5, flip it. We know how to do that. And now I want to pick a background color before I go ahead and bring this into polar coordinates. And so I'm picking this nice deep blue color that I paint on the bottom. And now when I go into polar coordinates and I compress the image a little bit, we got something interesting to look at. And again, it's seamless. It's just a nice, simple design. And, these are very predictable when you're using this mirror technique. Things will work out very easily for you. Let's look at one more, a few more rather, but this one, similarly, where we go through this process. Here's a nice slice of wood, and I like this because of the beautiful contrast here and the rays coming out from the corner. And so I'm setting this one up similarly, but before I did, I mirrored it, right? So I expanded the canvas, mirrored it, and now I've turned it sideways. This one is not quite 3 times as wide. You get to choose whatever size canvas you want. We go through the same process here of making copies, flipping it like the page of a book. Again, you could probably stop here and go, wow, this is nice, right? It's just very interesting. But we want to pick a background color here because we want to go into polar coordinates. I picked this deep brown. I paint the brown on the bottom. And now when I go into the polar coordinates, again, it's very predictable, right? I have a nice deep background. Personally, I'd love to have a cocktail table that looks like this. Beautiful lines of symmetry here. It just makes everything interesting. So I think one of the common themes here is to work with things that strike your eye, right? Things that are a bit unusual. And I found that at Yale University's Schwartzman Center. And this is a picture from my iPhone, just kind of showing you the where we are. We're up at you're in a viewing room. It's a dome ceiling, and they have this light show going on the ceiling. And you have that beautiful blue window up top. And while this is, and so the image is morphing as you're looking at it. And while this is not a very interesting image, I think this one is. So it captured a lot of different images, and they let you bring cameras in there, which is terrific. Again, this by itself, I'd be really happy to have this as an image to show. And I think it works just fine just the way it is. But again, if you go in to and do the same thing we did with the previous ones, turn it sideways, make multiple layers, copies, pick a background, and go into polar coordinates, and you get something, again, very interesting to look at, very unusual. So let's try something different here. And for this image, we're going to use a section of that larger photo, just this portion here. And then at the very end, we're going to introduce our gazing fisherman into the scene. And we're also going to break a few rules here. So here's our starting image. It's been cropped, and we're applying the polar coordinates to it. And you can tell we've broken a rule already because we didn't mirror anything. We have this seam and we have this ugly background, right? These are the things we need to address. So we're going to do it a little differently here. We're going to take this image and I'm rotating it sideways because I want these rocks, stones rather, to be oriented a certain way. And then I'm stretching it, again, with Control T. We know how to use that command. And I've cropped it a little bit here. And now I've zoomed in, I've enhanced it, I've touched it up. And so how did I get rid of this seam line? It's, again, with these tools here, the removal tool and this clone stamp tool. And you can kind of pick out where that seam is, but I think it does a pretty nice job of hiding it. And then finally, we're going to bring in our gazing fisherman, and we've changed enhanced it a little bit, adding a vignette. And so he's looking out into this magical space here, if you will. And this is our last image, okay? And then we'll wrap up. And here I'm starting with this image, but I first wanted to crop it. And so I thought this would look interesting if, again, if I applied polar coordinates to this image. And again, we're breaking the rules again, right? Because we're not mirroring anything, but I kind of wanted to wind up with 3 of these projections here, and you can't do that if you mirror it. You're not going to get 3. You're going to get an even number, but we're going to fix this. So there's polar coordinates, and we have the ugly background we have to fix as well. And I've compressed it with Control T so I can get this nice round image, and I've cropped it. And I've rotated it with Control T, right? You can rotate things. And I wanted it so I have this rock over here on the side because I kind of have an idea of what I want to do with the rock. And now I've zoomed in, and this is going to be the starting point of where I want to go with this image. And so, again, we're going to use this removal tool because here's our seam, and Photoshop does just a magical job getting rid of seams like this with that tool. And this is my little friend, iguana friend that I was thinking of putting in here. And so again, separate it from the background, get the tree out of there and just put my iguana in here. And it's starting to look like something of interest to me. But what is bothering me is that very bright background. And so I want to replace the background. It's just distracting. And I thought I would use this nice image of the Milky Way. This is from the Southern Hemisphere, actually down in New Zealand. So it's not the typical Milky Way that you would see. So I got rid of that background. I put my nice Milky Way in there. And of course, we need to now play with the exposure. And so we've adjusted the exposure here. We've gone ahead and boosted the tonal range to make it pop a little bit. And finally, we've added a vignette here. And so I think we got something that's interesting to look at here. And so really the message I'd love to impart to you is, spend time exploring. Pick a photo that you think could be interesting, work with it, play with it, add something else, change things, and you'll be amazed with what might develop. So I hope I've been able to entice you to try a few of these techniques. Let's just kind of wrap up here. We are photographers, right? We capture images. We explore ways to make them talk to us, to move us. We discover things at work. We build on those discoveries and we create works of art, whether it's with these, wonderful topaz effects or the timeless creativity of compositing or using the beauty of nature's symmetry to draw attention, or the uniqueness of this Fab Four technique, which can generate, well, something out of this world, right? So with that, I'd like to thank you all for allowing me to share some images, ideas, and thoughts with you. And my message is, just go have fun.
Thank you so much, Phil. That was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Are you in Maryland?
I'm sorry?
Are you in Maryland or where are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in Connecticut. That's
Oh, you're
why
in Connecticut.
yeah, that's why I mentioned the Stamford Church there because you guys are not far.
Yeah.
Do it,
My,
do it, do it.
my daughter lives in Wilton, so Stamford is, not very far from it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So that's great. Some amazing stuff that you were showing. That's I got to look into it.
Very good.
Yeah. So, does anyone have any questions? I don't know. This most of the people are muted.
A lot to digest.
Yeah, it's definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
Lloyd Baruti. So I noticed when you were doing the topaz that you were dropping this bird in, and you had a whole library of birds, and
Right.
I wasn't sure whether all the birds were shot by you,
Yeah.
but is there any ethical problem in using somebody else's birds, or are we talking about just creating art here? And if it's somebody else's bird, then it's not 100% yours.
Exactly. Exactly.
Is that for
Every,
both?
yeah,
Yeah.
every image you saw was all mine, including the skies, the birds, everything, the lizards, everything. So I'm not one for grabbing someone else's even backgrounds. So I want everything. I want to own all my pixels. So they're all mine.
Okay. Is it unethical to use somebody else's?
I I may not be the right guy to answer that question. I really don't know. A lot of times with camera clubs, for example, when you're competing, they tell you everything in the image needs to be yours, right? You need to own even your backgrounds. Other camera clubs may allow other things, permitted with them. But I guess if you're going to sell your work, then things are a little different. If you're just showing it, it's one thing. If you're selling it, who knows, right?
I think it also has to do with whether, like let's say you're gonna pull in somebody else's bird into your picture, is that, if the purpose of the image is yours, I guess it would depend on whether that person's image is copyrighted or not. If that's
Gotcha.
public domain, then
Right,
you should be able to use it in your picture, right?
right. Believe me, it's very easy to take pictures of birds and to remove the background. And so there's really nothing hard about it. Just you got to just kind of take a little time to do it. But once it's done, you can use that bird over and over and over again, right?
Well, I'm new in the club, so I'm just wondering what club members would say to using something from a library to put into your photo.
Yeah, probably we shouldn't, I mean, if you just want to show something, as Phil said, if you just want to show something, it's fine. But if you want to put it into the competition, that it gets iffy at that point,
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
Yeah. Phil, I've got a question kind of
Sure.
related to Lloyd's question on the bird. So there was that one where you had a flower and you duplicated or mirrored it, and then you duplicated it again, and then you put the bird in the middle. So that was on a lower layer in Photoshop.
Right, the
And
flower.
then
I think it was a
the
flower that was
flower.
there.
And
Right.
then you exposed that lower layer to be able to see the bird. What if the
Flower?
bird isn't the right size? So you're able to are you able to adjust the size of the
Oh,
bird and
absolutely.
then
Absolutely. Now you're saying bird, but you really mean flower, right?
uh, you put the owl in the center of a flower.
I'm sorry. You're right. At the end. Very good. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, and
So you
if the
absolutely.
owl yeah, if the
Yes.
owl's face wasn't the right size, because I can see this happening to me.
Right.
If the owl's face isn't the right size,
There you go.
what do you do to get it to
Okay. So Control T, which is transpose, you
Mhm.
can take you can take that, you can move it anywhere you want with when you do Control T. You can expand it if you want, make it larger. You can rotate it if you want. You can flip it like the page of a book if you want. So transpose does a lot of things. Best thing to do is just play with it.
Okay, thank you. Control T. Got it.
Anyone else? Well, thank you so much, Phil.
Okay, well, thank you all for having me. It was fun, and again, go try it out and have some fun. And if, by the way, you've got my, if you don't have my email address, Laszlo can give it to you. And if you need a little help, I'd be happy to help anyone. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Take care,
you.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Thanks.
Laszlo, can you send me his email address so I can ask him for an invoice so we can pay
Yeah,
it?
I will do that.
Okay.
You want to do it now? Heidi,
What?
you want to do it now or?
No, I don't care. Just don't forget
Okay, all right.
to email me.
All right. So where is our illustrious leader? No?
Don, can you hear us?
Yeah, is missing.
Oh, she's missing.
Hmm. Wonder what happened to her.
She's here. Yeah, I see her.
She's on the list.
I
She's in
see her,
there.
She can
but I
hear
can't
us
hear
though.
her.
Moving, but I cannot hear what she says.
Yeah, I can't
There
hear
she
what
is.
she's saying.
We can't hear you.
Can't hear you, Don. One minute.
Yeah.
Work on it. It's fine.
Maybe Heidi can talk before we.
Steve,
That
you
way-
want to take it over then?
Do you want to flip to the treasurer's report while
Yeah, I
Don's
was just going to say,
figuring
why
out?
don't we flip to the treasurer's report and Heidi can also talk about the Christmas party?
Sure. Okay, great. So on the treasurer's report, and I'm just bringing this up here for a second so I can talk with you about it. All right. We had a balance as of our last meeting of $962.63. We collected $390 worth of dues for a total unrestricted cash balance as of today, November 18th, of $1,352.63.
Mm.
So that is our treasurer's report. And then me get you all back here. Hang on, back to Zoom so I can see you. All right, holiday party. So every December meeting, we have our holiday party. Because the third Tuesday, it's kind of close to Christmas, and I'm not sure if Dawn had a conflict. Instead of the third Tuesday, we're having it on the second Tuesday. So that's Tuesday, December 9th, the holiday party. Starts a little bit earlier. Looks like it's going to be from 5 to 9. Oh, she just sent me the agenda. Thanks, Dawn. It's going to be 5 to 9. So basically, from 5 to 6, we're going to have appetizers. From 6 to 7, we're going to have the dinner. And then at 7 o'clock, we're going to have the meeting. Our theme this year, we try to do a different theme every year, is Ugly Sweater, because we've done that one a few years ago, and that seemed to be a big hit. There will be games and prizes, and also a raffle. For the 50/50. The club is going to pay for the main dishes, the hot dishes, and we ask that if anyone can have bring a side dish or a dessert, we will have a sign up sheet that I will send out so that you can sign up to bring a side dish or a dessert. It is BYOB. And that will again be at Noble Horizons.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Finally. This damn headset. I need to spend more than apparently $25 on it. So I finally got it working. Thank you, Heidi, for talking about the holiday party. I did have that on my agenda, and I think you went over everything because I sent that to you. So I'll go back to the top of my agenda. So we do have some sad news to report to those that don't know, but Karen McMahon passed away last month after complications from surgery. She lived in New Jersey. She joined our club as a remote member, and the club brought her, a lot of joy. She was very active in our competitions and our Zoom meetings. She was always almost front and center on the Zoom meetings. So she just found a great sense of belonging in our club, and she was a valuable member. So on behalf of the club, I did pass on our condolences to her husband, Brian. And I didn't get a card out yet, but I will try to get that out tomorrow on behalf of us. So I wanted to mention that because she always participated in the competition. So that's that. All right. So some other things I wanted to go over. Heidi was probably you didn't mention this one, unless you didn't. I missed it while I was fighting with my headset. Is the membership dues? So those are due, and if you haven't paid, please get it paid by December because basically each year we go through the list in December, and anybody who hasn't paid at that point comes off the list. So if you haven't paid your dues yet, please try to do so by the holiday party. So fees are the same as they've been for several years. We haven't raised them. It's $35 for the season and $10 for each family member that lives in the same household. All right, that's it for that. Competitions, the PSA selections were sent. I'm going to, you could go into our website and go to the gallery and go to the competitions, and there's a button at the top that says, I think top photos or top list or something. And when you click on that, it'll sort them for you based on the votes. The thing to remember is you can't send two images by the same person. So, for example, if Laszlo's two photos came in the top 6, we'd only send one, the top one. So it's not as easy to figure out the top 6. So I'm going to try to send that to Laszlo, and he can include it into the newsletter. We did have good participation. There was 27 or 28 photos for each category, which is very good. And we had more votes than we normally do. We had 18 or 19 votes on each of the categories. So that was nice to see. It was nice to see participation by several of our newest members. Hopefully you got some feedback from the club on that. So I wanted to thank all who participated in that. And, before voting, especially to the new members and whatnot, it might be good to look at the PSA and any CCC competitions in the past. They always post what the results are. You can kind of go in and get an idea of what kind of pictures are submitted, what does well, because they'll have first, second, third, and even honorable mention listed there. So that might be helpful to kind of gauge what type of pictures to submit for the competitions. And the next competition, I think Bert said he'd be requesting photos again around December 20th. So you
Yeah,
can start
let me.
preparing those.
I got an email from Steve to if I could tell when the next competition. So I figured because I don't want to have any CCC and PSA at the same time. So around the 20th from the coming 4 months. So December, January, February, and March. I'm gonna ask for the pictures either any CCC, that's the first one. Then in 20 January it's gonna be PSA. Then 20 February it's gonna be any CCC, and I think in 20 March it's probably the PSA again. So that's what I'm planning. So if
Okay.
you can have your pictures, you can work on your pictures and have them around at this time. Then you can send them in right away when we start asking.
Okay,
Okay.
great. Yes, and thank you for managing all of that, Bert. I did send out an email to only those that needed the PSA forms, and I did get the forms for several people. I think there might still be some outstanding, so within the next week, I will send out another list. And if you're on the list, you get the email, it means I don't have your PSA form yet. They are good for a period of 3 years. So it might be you might remember signing one in the past, but it might have expired already. So I have to send another one out to those folks. And then obviously all the new members will need it in order to participate in the PSA competitions. So I'll be sending that out. We already talked about the holiday party. All right, so we have our first salon show of the season, I guess, coming up. We had one over the summer, but the next one coming up is at Noble Horizons. So we do this one every year. I sent out an email to Danielle today to confirm the dates, but I did go and look at their calendar, and they do have it updated with us, so they already have us on there. So I'll just confirm the dates with her.
I did that with her back in September when you asked me to. So it's the 16th for 4 months, for the 8 weeks. So the 16th of January until the 13th of March are the dates. And then I also confirmed with the Scoville Memorial Library for the second show, and that would be end of March and through April.
Also the topic, tell them the topic.
And for the Scoville Memorial Library, the topic would again be local.
Okay. All right. I thought that you had followed up with Danielle on that, and I couldn't find the email, so it's probably because you sent one to me, and it's from you, and I was looking for her. But I did have
Laszlo has had that in the newsletter too, so he's been good about publicizing that, so that's good.
Okay. Yeah, I had the reception date. I didn't have the right end date for that, so I'll update my notes on that. And just as a reminder for Noble Horizons, it's always new work. It's 3 or 4 photos per member. It depends on how many participate, what the sizes are, but we usually request 3 or 4. And again, new work that hasn't been shown at Noble Horizons or any other local shows in the area, because they don't want to have their show have the same photos that have already been shown, across town recently. So they do always request new work, and there is no specific topic, so it can be anything.
Okay. Quick question. So the reception is the 16th at 4, starting at 4 p.m. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
And the drop off will be earlier that week or a week before?
Yeah, I don't have the exact drop off dates. We'll start getting that when we start putting the show together. But yes, drop off date will probably be that either the weekend prior or up until probably like Tuesday. They usually hang it like Wednesday, Thursday, I think. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And then the last thing I had was just the newsletter. The topic of the month is buildings. And if you haven't sent any to Laszlo, go ahead and send him some photos representing that topic. And then obviously, if you have any articles, tips, local events that you want to share to go in the newsletter. I've seen some great participation in the last several newsletters that we've had. I think last time we had like, I don't know, six different articles from different folks in the club. So I wanted to thank everybody for helping let us go out there. And I think that was it. You did the treasury report. So that's all I had on my agenda. Does anybody else have anything they want to bring up?
Yeah, I have a question. Lloyd Baruti here. I'm relatively new to the club, and the only camera I have at this point is an iPhone 16. And but I do have a lot of experience with cameras. When I was younger, I had a Pentax SLR back in the early 70s, late 60s, that kind of thing. My question is, I wouldn't mind some advice from anybody who might want to point me in the right direction on what I might buy in terms of camera and any lenses. And similarly, if anyone has anything that they might want to sell, I'm all ears. So if anyone would be kind enough to spend some time with me, I'd really appreciate it. I'm in Lakeville. So just contact me. It's my name at gmail.com.
All right, Lloyd, thank you.
Thanks.
I'm going to check with my husband. He's always got a bunch of cameras laying around, so I'll check with him. And let
Well,
you know
you
if you have
can
any.
also on Tuesday, mostly at 10, we meet with a group from us, with maybe sometimes 10 people from the camera club at what is it called, that coffee shop, Laszlo? Or
Gifford's.
How
In
much? What?
Sharon, Lloyd.
Oh yeah, share. So if you come there, you see right away a lot of people who can show you their cameras. Laszlo always has his camera with him. Some of the other people have their cameras with them. So yeah, you can.
Okay, what day of the week is that?
Tuesday.
Tuesday mornings at 10 o'clock.
Also, I just missed it. Okay, well.
And yeah, Nikon.
Yeah.
Well, they'll do it again next Tuesday. It's every Tuesday.
It's every Tuesday at 10 o'clock at Giffords and Sharon.
Okay. Yeah, I want to be well equipped because on December 8th, I'm driving to Mexico for 4 months. So should have some interesting,
exciting.
I hope to have some interesting pictures. And driving means there's a lot of places to stop on the way too and come back. So I hope we'll have a whole treasure trove of photos next time.
Right.
Yeah, I can happily chat with you about it, Lloyd. This is Steve. So
Steve, okay. Thanks.
yeah, if you give me a call.
Yeah, Lloyd, I just sent you a PM with the info, a separate message. And if anyone who's going to be going to the meeting on Tuesday or knows someone who's going to be going, just give them a heads up that we've got a member who's interested in maybe buying a camera. Someone always seems to have something they're trying to sell.
Yeah, I'm not picky.
You know, Canon or Nikon guy? You don't care which one?
I don't
Well, or Sony or Fuji.
True. I always know there's a rivalry between Canon and so.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody got anything else?
No.
No. All right. We had a great turnout. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for staying on for the meeting. And you'll start to hear about the holiday party. So hope to see you there in person in December. And happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks, Dawn.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.